Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Royal Sussex Live. Welcome, one and all. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being here first. Fancy. Hello to Joy Amore, Vicky Chavez. Who else is here? Lydia Washington. Good morning to you. Uh, and NJ. Okay. Mathilde. Andrade. I hope I'm saying that right. Mackenzie, long time. Thank you for being a member of Royal Sussex. Speaking of memberships, thank you, Church Nelly, for 44 months of membership. Fabulous Friday to you too. Thank you so much for being here. Okay, I wish it was under better circumstances, but well, I figured this is one of those times when we really ought to be together. So um, here we are. Yeah, that's one thing about the Sussex squad. We come together during the best of times and the worst of times. But either way, we're here for each other. So I'm always so glad for that. So let's just go ahead and get into it. As you probably know, I hope that's the right phrase to use, justice denied, because Harry is being denied his day in court. Harry, I call him Harry like he's my son, but the Duke of Sussex, His Royal Highness, now is the best time to rub that in, seeing that we know how much that irritates them. But His Royal Highness, Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, um, apparently this is the end of the road as far as the Rayback is concerned. Um, we tried, we prayed. Um, Harry argued, his lawyers argued his case, and it was very compelling. And if nothing else, once again, I have to say, I'm just very glad that these procedures are a matter of the permanent record, right? It deserves, at the very least, it deserves to be made a part of the permanent record. It really should be because it's very serious. And what happens next, I don't know. I don't know. Will the will there ever be like a Sussex family visit to the United Kingdom? I don't know. Oh, buonasera, Robert Collins. Thank you so much for being here. Buongiorno. Um, well, it's a blow. It's a blow, but we're still here and we're still standing strong. So, anyway, let's get into it. So, justice denied often refers to situations where individuals are not treated fairly or justly, particularly within the legal system. This can manifest in various forms, including wrongful convictions, inadequate legal representational, listen to me, reputation, that's a tongue twister, inadequate legal representation, or lengthy delays in obtaining justice. The phrase justice denied can also be used more broadly to describe situations where individuals are denied their fundamental rights or are subject to injustice in other areas of life. So I'm going to say that applies. I'm going to say that applies. Um, that was the first thing that came to mind for me. Justice denied, because Harry is asking for justice, and are not they're not willing to hear him out. I think the fix was in. I cannot help but believe the fix was in. I mean, after all, it is his father's court. His father is the supreme governor of the Church of England. It is His Majesty's court. This is why, ever since the Queen died, King Charles III is totally free of anything to do with the cash for honors or just about anything else you could imagine, because it would be redundant. At this point, Charles no longer ever needs to have a passport or a driver's license. None of those things apply to him because he is the law. He is the church. He is all of those things. So it's unfortunate. I feel like the fix was in, but I can't prove anything. Well, I don't know if justice was blind or if justice was coached and rehearsed, but the scale means that there's balance and equality. And of course, the sword is a way to make sure that justice is served swiftly. And, well, and of course, blind justice, as they refer to this sculpture, which you've probably seen in so many places surrounding law and courts and legal matters. She's blindfolded because justice is supposed to be blind. It should not matter who you are. We all are supposed to receive, in theory, that is, equal protection under the law. But so many times, that's just not the case. Harry served his country, proudly served under his commander in chief, the Queen Elizabeth II, and he still believes that for his father, King Charles III. He is still a prince of the realm. He is still fifth in line to the throne. As far as I know, he is still a council of state, and he is the son of a head of state. Along with all those other things I said, Charles is a head of state. And my best argument for his need for protection, especially when visiting the United Kingdom, his father is still a head of state. He is considered a leader on the global stage. How do you deny the son of a reigning monarch, a head of state? This is so strange to me as an American because as sure as the sun rises in the morning, I know that the Secret Service is there to protect the president and the first family. That is just a given, without any regards to politics, and it's never personal. Congress um, supplies the funds needed to maintain the Secret Service. There's no question of it. So why deny that to the son of a king? It just is bonkers. I just don't get that. Melinda Pharma, thank you so much for the super sticker, and thank you for being a member of Royal Sussex. 18 months they served with dignity. The Queen was very proud of them, Queen Elizabeth II, very proud of them. But the Queen was aging and had become very weak with cancer, and she just couldn't defend them against certain elements, like Rayback, her own son. They didn't put a foot wrong. Whatever they say, they've never put a foot wrong while they were married and in that family. So this is what I'm looking for Prince Harry speaks to the BBC following court decision. Now, that is supposed to happen anytime now. Prince Harry has given his reaction to the court's decision in an exclusive interview with the BBC Nada Tawfik near his home in Santa Barbara, California. We will bring you that interview later. So I don't know when they will share that, but just so you know, that is forthcoming. And hopefully, I can at least play the sound for you, if at all possible. But I'm just going to go and take a look right now and see if they have posted anything. Oh no. You know what? I will talk about this later. I may come back later today. I may talk about this later. Um anyway, that'll be worth a good laugh later. I promise you. So, okay, bear with me. I'm just taking a look. So far, I do not see any response from Harry. And let me go to one of my reliable sources just to be sure. Okay. So that story came out 45 minutes ago, and well, so far they could very well still be in conversation right now. So we'll see. Uh, Kim Truman, thank you so much for the super sticker, and um, okay, yes, thank you very much for the super sticker, and thank you for being here this morning and or afternoon, depending on where you are. Well, you hope for the best. We prepare for the worst, but we always hope for the best. Okay, so anyway, watch that space because we may possibly get word from Montecito, California. And of course, as we all know, in Montecito, there are no leaks in Montecito. And still, we are very proud of the Duke of Sussex. No matter what happens, we're always proud and we're always going to support the Duke of Sussex. In that instance, this changes nothing. Plus, there's well, anyway, I'm just sharing with you some of these images of Harry um, with the enthusiasm and confidence in which he carries himself in and out of court. Of course, those are not from today. Harry did not go to court today. I guess Harry probably knew how everything would turn out. So let me play the sound from court. Huh. Yeah, let me play the sound from court. And
clearly, those.
Okay. Yeah, let me grab that and then we'll listen to it together and then we'll talk on the other side. Fair enough? Sure. Okay, here goes. Here goes.
So this afternoon, we're going to hand down our judgments in the case of the Duke of Sussex against the Secretary of State for the Home Department. I'm going to read out a summary of my judgment, which has been prepared so as to assist the public and the press to understand what exactly the court has decided. It should, however, be understood by all that the full judgments themselves are the only authoritative version of what has been decided. We will have some hard copies of both the press summary and the full judgments here to let you have after the hearing. But the judgment will be uploaded as usual this afternoon to the case law section of the National Archives website, so it will be accessible to everyone. Introduction. In this case, Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, seeks a declaration that the protective security arrangements provided for him on his visits to the United Kingdom are inadequate and unlawful. The defendant to the claim is the Secretary of State for the Home Department, whom I'm going to call the SSHD, because she is accountable to Parliament for the Executive Committee for the Protection of Royalty and Public Figures, known as RAVEC, which provides protection for royalty and certain other very important people. On the 28th of February 2020, Sir Richard Mottram, who was then the chair of RAVEC, wrote a decision letter explaining that protection would be withdrawn from the Duke and Duchess of Sussex from the 31st of March 2020. In early 2020, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex moved out of the United Kingdom to live first in Canada and then later in California. The main issue raised by this appeal is whether Sir Peter Lane, who was the judge, was right to dismiss the Duke of Sussex's claim. The judge decided that RAVEC, in taking its decision to withdraw the Duke's security, had good reason not to follow its 2017 policy. That policy provided that RAVEC would evaluate a risk analysis conducted by its risk management board in order to determine which individuals should receive protection. RAVEC had not commissioned any risk analysis from the risk management board in respect of the Duke of Sussex before taking that decision. The judge also decided that the Duke of Sussex was not in an analogous position to certain other VIPs for whom protection is provided by RAVEC.
I just want to say, I don't know what that sound is. If that's someone protesting, I don't know what that is.
Part of the two-day hearing before the Court of Appeal, which is composed of me, the Master of the Rolls, and Lord Justice Bean and Lord Justice Edis, was conducted in private. Because of the confidentiality of the security arrangements provided for members of the royal family and for other individuals. But the judgments are public. but they have a short confidential annex which will not be made public in case it puts any of the persons protected by Ravek at risk. Did something go wrong with the process? Ms. Shahid Fatima, King's Counsel, leading counsel for the Duke of Sussex, submitted that this case had an important human dimension. She submitted that the Duke of Sussex's life was at stake because of the decision-making in this case. She said that the bespoke process adopted by Ravek had singled the Duke out for especially inferior treatment as compared to all others protected by Ravek. In effect, it had been predetermined in the decision letter that on future visits to the UK, the Duke of Sussex would be provided with a lower level of security than had been provided for him throughout his adult life. This demonstrated, submitted Ms. Fatima, that something had gone wrong with the process. She submitted that the claimant was still subject to the same risks as he was before he stepped back from royal duties, and that the impact of an attack upon him was obviously still just as significant as it has always been. His military, she said, placed him at particular risk. Although it was not suggested that no security provision had been made, the Duke of Sussex strongly criticised the adequacy of what Ravek had determined was appropriate. I said in my judgment that these were powerful and moving arguments, and I said that it was plain that the Duke of Sussex felt badly treated by the system. But I concluded, having studied the detail of the extensive documentation, I could not say that the Duke's sense of grievance translated into a legal argument for the challenge to Ravek's decision. The legal question, indeed the only question for the court, was whether Sir Richard had failed to follow Ravek's policy without a good reason. From the Duke of Sussex's point of view, I said that something may indeed have gone wrong, in that an unintended consequence of his decision to step back from royal duties and spend the majority of his time abroad has been that he's been provided with a more bespoke and generally lesser level of protection than what he was provided with in the UK before. But that did not of itself give rise to a legal complaint. Did Sir Richard fail to follow Ravek's policy without a good reason? I said in my judgment that Sir Richard had indeed failed to follow Ravek's policy. But I said that there were four main reasons for holding as a matter of law that Sir Richard had had a good reason for having done so. First, Ravek's policy was inward-facing and unpublished, and it concerned an area of national importance that was peculiarly within the expertise of law enforcement agencies, Ravek, and the royal household. Secondly, in this area of high political sensitivity, the court had considerable respect for Sir Richard and Ravek as decision makers, because they had unrivaled expertise and experience in the field of royal protection. Thirdly, the decision was explained in contemporaneous documentation to the effect that the Risk Management Board would not undertake further risk analyses for the Duke of Sussex because they were no longer required, given the alternative governance arrangements that were to be established on a case-by-case basis for the future. Sir Richard had, however, obtained 3 threat assessments for the Duke of Sussex during February 2020 before writing the decision letter. Fourthly, Sir Richard and Ravet had given compelling reasons for having reached the conclusion that the appropriate course was to establish bespoke arrangements for when the Duke returned to the United Kingdom on future visits. The Duke was in effect stepping in and out of the cohort of protection provided by Ravet. Outside the UK, he was outside the cohort. But when in the UK, his security would be considered as appropriate depending on the circumstances.
The long and the short of it is, as long as Harry gives them plenty notice about any future visits, then everything is fine. They will assess his security risk at that time. We all know what the problem is with that, and that is the leaks and the briefs. When Meghan and Harry rented a cottage in the Cotswolds, someone leaked their location. Someone in the royal family leaked their location. A magazine managed to fly drones, or however they managed to do it, and beamed photos of the inside of the cottage. They no longer felt safe. They had no retreat, absolutely no retreat from the daily life at court or in Kensington Palace. That was their haven. That was so that things would be more bearable. We all know that as soon as Harry files any type of plans with Ravet, it is going to become a headline in the newspaper. They are going to leak it. They will not leak against the other senior members of the royal family, because to them, those people matter. William, Kate, Charles, Godzilla, those people matter. But Harry and Meghan, they do not. They do not matter. Even when they were still supposedly senior working royals, it did not matter. Everything was subject to leaks. The reason why Harry lost his security was because of leaks. He refused to back down his complaints of the alleged involvement of a, what was his name? Kristen Jones, alleged involvement in leaks. And Harry said in his book, when he refused to back down and withdraw the complaint, they said he was going to pay severely. And that's when they decided to remove the protection, the royal protection officers, and they withdrew the allowance that was promised. And this was only for the first year. That was only for the first year after they stepped back from official royal duty. So, in other words, when they walked out of Westminster Abbey for the Commonwealth Day, they had one other event at Buckingham Palace, and then they were done. They were on their way to Canada. It took 6 weeks before it was reported that the Sussexes were in Canada. And all of a sudden, here comes all the paparazzi. And it took another 6 weeks after they left Canada and moved to Los Angeles, thanks to Tyler Perry. And then once that contact was made, all of a sudden, that location was leaked. Tyler Perry said in all the time that he owned that house, he had never seen anything like these zombie-like paparazzi literally cutting through the fence to try to get photos, flying drones over the house. None of the neighbors had seen anything like that. It was unprecedented for that to happen to anybody. This is why the smear campaign, this is why the hate campaign, they want to dehumanize Harry and Meghan so that people are okay with this type of coverage. They want people to believe that it's okay, but it's not okay. So just so you know, I see that there is a conversation that has taken place. Let me see if I can grab that between Harry and someone from the BBC. So it's not much, but I'm going to share with you what I have. I hope that's okay. Again, it's not much, but I'm going to share with you what I have. Give me just a second here. But it looks like whatever interview he had in Montecito is in the can and ready for broadcast. Let me see here. Just for effect, I'm going to put this up on the screen. And then I'm going to let you hear what Harry is saying. Give me just a second here. God, that judge is obnoxious, isn't he? Issues.
I can't see a world in which I would be bringing my wife and children back to the UK at this point. And the things that they're going to miss is, well, everything. You know, I love my country. I always have done. I can't see a world in which I would be bringing my wife and children back to the UK at this point. And the things that they're going to miss is, well, everything. You know, I love my country.
So, only 16 seconds long, but you just heard Harry say it. I can't see a way that I could bring my wife and my children to this country, the country I love. I love my country, but he doesn't think it's possible for them to go over there. Considering what those people are capable of, he just doesn't want to risk it. He does not want to risk it. It's very sad, but I don't suspect he trusts his father or his brother, and certainly not that human mattress that his father married. You cannot trust those people. You cannot trust those people. You turn your back on those people at your own peril. And it really is a disgrace. It is absolutely a disgrace. So I think we're done with the obnoxious judge. In spite of everything that he heard, he seems to be okay with ending, ending any further litigation. And if I'm correct, I do believe that there is the court costs which Harry has to pay. So I don't care how many jars of jam is going or raspberry preserve it takes to pay this court cost. I intend to have as many as possible to help pay for this court cost. But what a shame. It is just it just stinks on hot ice. It really does. I'm very, very disappointed. I guess it was the only likely outcome, of course, but you still hope for the best. You should always hope for the best. This is unfortunate. And Harry, in his book, Harry wrote about the joy that he felt growing up in the UK. Well, at least the outdoors, should I say. He enjoyed the outdoors. He enjoyed Balmoral. The way he spoke of Balmoral is the way that any child would speak of Balmoral. So it is it's super disappointing. It really is. All right, let me see what else I got for you here. Go to the next slide. This is a courtroom, of course. Glow says, so on H.R.H. Prince, His Royal Highness Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex security case, the appeal court found in favor of the monarchy and Daddy Dearest King Charles via Ravec. It is to be expected in many ways. They were never going to let that Harry have less restricted access to the UK as part of the cult punishment behavior. But I do not want to hear one peep from King Charles royal reporters that sources say he dearly wants to see Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet, especially after he took Frogmore from them too. This is one of the time capsules and future memoir. Yeah, this is one for the time capsule and a future memoir. Yeah, the one place where there was royal protection that was considered safe for the Sussexes, the Frogmore estate, that was taken from them. Charles took it from them after Harry paid $3 million. They took it from him. That was a gift from Queen Elizabeth II upon their wedding. That was a gift. And once again, I have to say it, it was a safe space, a haven where they could escape the rest of royal life and have like a solitary retreat. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't exactly ideal, but it was all they had. That was supposed to be their salvation, their safe space, their fortress of solitude. And I believe Harry envisioned that he and Meghan and Archie and eventually Lilibet, that they would be able to go there, and that would be their headquarters when they would visit the UK. So taking that away from them, that was part of a greater plan, I'm sure. That was part of a greater plan. And how Meghan would have been comfortable there, I don't know, because that house represents a lot of bad memories. Oh well, it's too bad for the kids. You want to share your childhood with your children, and now that's not possible. Okay, I'm going to take a look at a couple of your comments here because Deborah Anderson says cold and heartless decision. Beverly McCaskill says to all that have been acknowledging me, thank you, and it is going to fast for me to get names. Thank you. Okay. Well, whatever it is, of course I acknowledge you. Okay, let me slide back here a little bit further. Antoinette Kennedy says, Baron, that's what was all about. They lingered the crap on so that they can milk his darn legal bill and pay it, Harry, and move on. And middle finger up again. Okay. Yeah, I have lost whatever respect I had for Charles. I lost that a long time ago. Not bringing his wife and kids back is the answer. Thank you, Mo Shannon, for that. Okay. Well, Harry loves his father. He's quite optimistic about life in general, and he wanted to believe. I mean, because listen, Harry is a monarchist. Harry believes in what's possible. He doesn't like the way things are, but he's a firm believer that monarchy is a great platform and that it can do some amazing things for people. And it is true. It is true. It is a fantastic platform, but they squander and waste it. Um, they had Will and Kate driving nails with a nail gun when they went to that island or where whatever that was, the Isle of Mull or Hull or Dole. What they were doing with their time what was the same silly, oh, let's see if you know how to roll cookie dough. Let's see if you know how to flip a pancake. Let's see if you know how to drive nails into a 2x4 with a nail gun. Just a bunch of nonsense. They could do so much and not even get involved with politics, but they could do so much more. They could change lives for so many people. But instead, they have gone to war with Prince Harry, Duchess Meghan, and the two children. They have gone to war with children. They really have. Oh, this is a well, you know what? I don't need to play that, but that was just them giving their opinions about what's going to happen next. But I think we heard enough about that. So let me see if I can see anything else for Harry in court. Or not in court, but his interview. So far, that was the only little soundbite that I could gather. Let me try BBC. So they said they were going to share it later. So was that just a tease for now? Or, oh, I see a link. I see a link. Yeah. Oh, okay. So I got 2 minutes and 54 seconds of something. So let me see if I can cue this up and share it with you. Not sure how I'm going to do that, but let me see what I can do. I'll see if I can cue it up and share it with you. Give me just a second here. If you just joined us, please don't forget to hit the like button. And if you are not a member, do consider becoming a member of Royal Sussex. Wow, I sounded really butch that time. Okay, let me see here. The bye-bye say. Okay, let's try to make this work.
I can't see a world in which I would be bringing my wife and children back to the UK at this point. And the things that they're going to miss is, well, everything. You know, I love my country. I always have done, despite what some people in that country have done.
Okay, now what did that?
So, you know, I miss the UK. I miss parts of the UK. Of course I do. And I think it's really quite sad that I won't be able to show, you know, my children my homeland. There is a lot of control and ability in my father's hands, ultimately this whole thing could be resolved through him, not necessarily by intervening, but by stepping aside, allowing the experts to do what is necessary and to carry out an RMB. That said, there is this all was initiated under a previous government. There is now a new government. I have had it described to me, once people knew about the facts, that this is an good old-fashioned establishment stitch-up, and that's what it feels like. There have been so many disagreements, differences between me and some of my family. This current situation that has been ongoing for 5 years with regard to human life and safety is the sticking point. It is the only thing that's left. Of course, some members of my family will never forgive me for writing a book. Of course, they will never forgive me for lots of things. But, you know, there is. I would love reconciliation with my family. There's no point in continuing to fight anymore. As I said, life is precious. I don't know how much longer my father has. He won't speak to me because of this security stuff. But it would be nice to reconcile. As I learned through the First Nations throughout Canada, because of the Invictus Games, their goal in life was always truth and reconciliation. And I turned around to them in many conversations. I said, right, but reconciliation can't come without truth. Well, I've now found out the truth. I've shared some of it with you today. A lot of it exists out there, whether people choose to ignore it or not. So it would be nice to have that reconciliation part now. If they don't want that, that's entirely up to them.
Wow. Wow. Isn't that something? Isn't that something? Renee Demonia, member for 29 months. Thank you, Baron, for keeping us updated. I have missed y'all. Please keep my mother in your prayers. We absolutely will. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I'm glad you're here. And yes, absolutely, we will keep your mother in our prayers. And yes, we have missed you too. Thank you so much for being here. Whew, that was heavy, huh? That was heavy. I don't know how much longer my father has. He will not speak to me. You guys, let me just say, Harry wrote that book to defend his family. Harry has given interviews to defend his family. Now, the spin that is put on the act of writing a book or doing an interview, the spin from the tabloid media, from the gargoyles on social media, and they make it seem as though Harry just capriciously acted out because he needed money. We all know that there has been constant leaking and briefing from that institution, primarily from Kensington Palace, and it continues today. There is a strategy that has been drawn up for the destruction of the Sussex family, figuratively speaking, of course, making it impossible for them to earn money, trying to push them in behind the walls where they have no friends, to discredit anything and everything that they say, so that the world for them contracts and so that they are rolled into this little ball. They don't want them to have friends. They don't want them to travel. They don't want them to do any public duty. They really don't want them to succeed. They want them to crawl back, broken, damaged, and destroyed. They want them to crawl back to the UK and take their rightful place as a piece of tchotchke or bric-a-brac or menagerie up on the balcony. That's what they want. They want to turn them into some cautionary note, a cautionary tale. This is what happens when you go up against this cult, and it is a cult of personalities, a cult of the willing. Everything is subject to analysis. Whatever they say, whatever they do. That book was to establish a permanent record. That was to be the voice when they could no longer speak. So 100 years from now, when they are still making documentaries as if it was the Duke of Windsor and Wallace Simpson, as they make these documentaries, at least some curious person will buy the book and learn the truth. Because I believe what Harry says. They will buy the book and learn the truth. Harry didn't just wake up and write the book for the sake of it. They were trying to destroy his wife. They were coming after his son. They even went after his daughter because of her name. Who does that? So he had every right to defend himself and his family. What kind of man would he be if he did not? Elaine Parker, thank you so much for the super sticker and for being a member. Lynn E., thank you very much for being a member, 23 months. I am in tears. I am heartbroken. Good King Harry lives on. Yes, thank you very much for that, Lynn E. Okay. Adrian G., did I miss a super sticker from you? Thank you so much for the super sticker. And Carlita Simone, I think I missed that from you, didn't I? Thank you for the super sticker. Okay. These are just some of those courtroom sketches that I was going to share with you, just to show how far we have come along. These are not necessarily from the most recent court, but that is the Rolls building. And is that the one they call the Old Bailey or no? Anyway, as you can see, it is like some Gothic revival from the Victorian era. Oh, that's not the lawyer that he had, the lady lawyer last time, but he fought hard. He fought hard. And this is heartbreaking. Connie Balmer, thank you for the super sticker. Now, I was going to interject something. Trigger warning, but I've played it before. I'm gonna play this for you again because it really describes the frustration that a lot of people have been feeling about the way the Sussexes have been treated, and especially the way that Harry has been betrayed by his own country, by his own family. Yes, he has been betrayed. Most members of the public, I believe, are on his side. But such is this very painful hate campaign that you have people that have some of the worst hostility and resentment toward him, and they don't even know why. They don't even know why they feel the way they do, but they have been brainwashed. There's been so much gaslighting. So, if for no other reason, given what the tabloids have done to Harry, Of course he doesn't feel safe. Why is there a voice inside of me saying, Charles, go to hell? I don't know why. I feel like that is welling up inside of me. God, I cannot stand that man. Anyway, let me play this.
The Mail on Sunday and the Mail online is just that looking forward to the Queen's Diamond Jubilee celebrations in June. I mean, they are literally saying that if Harry and Meghan come, the media circus around them will distract from the Queen's celebrations. Well, who is driving the media circus around them? Step forward, the Mail online and the Mail on Sunday.
Exactly. And Angela has been saying that Harry says he wants security and he might be in danger. Oh, please, he's narcissistic. So I would like to draw the attention to an article that was in the Mirror in March last year, where under the heading, as Army, let me just read that out again so I get it right. Prince Harry amongst most at-risk royal as Army service makes him top terror target. And the journalists have interviewed a couple of years back somebody from the Taliban who said ever since he joined the army, they've been trying to get him. And then as an Afghan leader, Owari Masrullah, who said it's just Harry's luck that he have been managed to escape so far. And then they've interviewed a former SSL soldier, Bob Kraft, and this was on the 11th of March 2021, who said that Harry is clearly a target for kidnapping, terrorism, and a whole lot of threats, and will need protection for a very long time. But whatever you think he should or shouldn't, and this gets me upset.
Oh, Gertrude.
5 days. He risked his country for 10 years, and the Queen observed us for 70 years, and they can't give them 5 days peace. It's horrendous.
Gertrude, please. I'm sorry you feel so sort of emotional about it, and I can understand why this story might resonate with people, and certainly anybody who's had family difficulties. I'm sure you can feel or empathise with different characters in this story. Gertrude, I'd like to say, I mean, I take all your points, brilliant points, by the way, about how Harry is a target and has been a target for evil. But I'd like to think anyway that these are a family that they don't need our tears. They've got enough, whether it's Harry and Meghan, the Sussexes, or the rest of them over here. They've got enough. They don't need our tears as well, Gertrude. Thank you for the call. And I hope you have a better...
What an asshole, the way he just shut her down like that. He was doing good for a minute, but that was awful. Gertrude, she is, I believe she's called multiple times. And this beautiful lady is doing everything that she can from her part of the world to try and speak up to protect them. So of course she's emotional. It is enough to break your heart. And there's a lot of Gertrudes out there. There are a lot of Gertrudes out there who knows the sacrifice that Harry has made. It just makes no sense what the rest of that family gets away with, but unfortunately, for the most part, they have the best hand. They have all the cards. It's going up against a machine, a cult. Let's see. Doretha Green, thank you so much for the super sticker. And thank you for being here on Royal Sussex. And Jacqueline Rippey, thank you. You just become a member, a new member. Thank you so much for that. I really do appreciate it. And Monique Shannon, let's see here. Okay, let me go back over here. Harry heart is hurt, and I understand his family and his home H.R.H. Thank you so much for that, Monique Shannon. And thank you so much for the super chat. Yeah, absolutely. He still dehumanized Harry and his family by minimizing how serious this security issue is. Absolutely. And mind you, that just a reminder, that is a, a a call from a call in to whatever show that is. That's from, gosh, how long ago? Well, the Queen was still alive, so it was probably 2022. So um, that's a pretty old one. So what does this mean for the Invictus games? Sounds to me like there ought to be a change of venue. This is something that really needed to be ironed out before the Invictus games. And unfortunately, that did not happen. So I'm not sure what that means at this point. But it really should have been ironed out. What is the Invictus Games 2027? On 14 December, His Majesty King Charles III visited the Royal Courts of Justice in London for an event celebrating the close relationship between the monarchy and the judiciary. Now, I'm sure you all remember this. When Charles went strutting up in the court with his big child-bearing hips, he chose that moment before one of the trials, not to do with this, but something else. He just decided to go to court. He just decided to thank the people that serve in the halls of justice right before a decision on whichever case that was. Who does that? He showed up at court, a court that functions in his name. That was deliberately provocative. That was done deliberately by Charles. Of all the occasions he had to go to the courts, he chose a day or a week or whatever it was before Harry's court case at the time. That was done deliberately. And so let's listen to Harry again. I know this can be triggering, and if it is triggering for you, you don't have to listen to it a second time, but I'm going to listen to this again and again because I just have to.
I can't see a world in which I would be bringing my wife into. I can't see a world in which I would be bringing my wife and children back to the UK at this point. And the things that they're going to miss is, well, everything. I love my country. I always have done, despite what some people in that country have done. So I miss the UK. I miss parts of the UK. Of course I do, and I think that it's really quite sad that I won't be able to show my children my homeland. There is a lot of control and ability in my father's hands. Ultimately, this whole thing could be resolved through him, not necessarily by intervening, but by stepping aside, allowing the experts to do what is necessary and to carry out an RMB. That said, there is this all was initiated under a previous government, and there is now a new government. I have had it described to me once people knew about the facts that this is an good old-fashioned establishment stitch-up. That's what it feels like. There have been so many disagreements, differences between me and some of my family. This current situation that has been ongoing for 5 years with regard to human life and safety is the sticking point. It is the only thing that's left. Of course, some members of my family will never forgive me for writing a book. Of course, they will never forgive me for lots of things. But you know, there is. I would love reconciliation with my family. There's no point in continuing to fight anymore. As I said, life is precious. I don't know how much longer my father has. He won't speak to me because of this security stuff. But it would be nice to reconcile. As I learned through the First Nations throughout Canada, because of the Invictus Games, their goal in life was always truth and reconciliation. And I turned around to them in many conversations. I said, right, but reconciliation can't come without truth. Well, I've now found out the truth. I've shared some of it with you today. A lot of it exists out there, whether people choose to ignore it or not. So it would be nice to have that reconciliation part now. If they don't want that, that's entirely up to them.
Okay, so once again, Harry sat down with the BBC, and he says he wants reconciliation. He wants reconciliation. It's not for us to judge. I'm sure there's a lot of us, the Sussex Squad, supporters of Harry and Meghan, who feel like this is like a mixed blessing. Good. Never go back over there. Nothing is that easy. Some of the best memories Harry has, he'd like to share those places and spaces with his kids. He surely he wants to say, hey, this is your grandma's flat here at the Kensington Palace. God help us. This is where she grew up at the whatever that house is, Anthorpe, Winthorpe, Anthorpe. Yeah, Anthorpe House. Althorpe, that's it, Althorpe. There's all of those things to share. And unfortunately, the way things stand is just not possible. And that's unfortunate, because that is his home. They have somewhat forced him into exile. Whatever they say, that is His Royal Highness the Duke of Sussex. Whatever they say, that is Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex. And they're still members of that family. And that is still Archie and Lilibeth's birthright. They don't want to be overshadowed. It was just so easy for Charles to do these things. It was just so easy. And he pretends as though there's nothing he can do about it. It is more important, and it always has been more important for him to please Camilla than to treat his son with love and respect. It has always been more important. Yeah, it's time to move the Invictus Games. It's time to move them. Don't need to have them over there. You know, I was okay with it. Now I don't like it. Now I don't want it. And understand this, you guys. It's not just that Harry is under threat because of his connection to the military. I've said it once and I will say it again. When it comes to Black people in situations like this, whether it was the mayor of Chicago, whether it was the governor of New York State, whether it was the president of these United States, for some reason, when they see that person of African descent in those spaces that they feel are the domain of white Europeans, the level of threats are horrendous. And the big difference is usually when there are threats made against, let's say, any public official, a lot of people go to lengths to conceal their identity. But when it came to Barack Obama, these people would just say, and you know where to find me. They would sign the letters or declare who they were on the voice messages or whatever. And the worst, the most threatening is that when Obama would go to certain places, if it was a concealed carry, not a concealed carry state, but a right, to carry firearms state, they would stand outside of the security zone. They would maintain a position on the periphery, brandishing their weapons to remind the president Barack Hussein Obama, to remind him that he's still a what. I don't use that language, but just to remind him that happened. And so the hostility against Meghan, they say, oh, she had a 5-vehicle motorcade in New York. That's excessive. So-and-so rides the subway there all the time. So-and-so doesn't have the British tabloid media drumming up a hate campaign. So-and-so is not being dehumanized on a daily basis for the past 6, 7, 8 years. That has not happened to so-and-so. So yeah, Keanu Reeves can get on the subway. Yeah, you can see Robert De Niro walking down the street. Yeah, they can do that. They're not the ones that are in the papers, on the news, spread all over social media, being declared as not even viable humans. They're not experiencing that. So they get into these semantical arguments and conversations about how the Sussexes are paranoid and they just want the attention. And why do they have all these vehicles? Because of you, damn it. That's why. I'm only frustrated at a certain point when I realize that when it comes to the information game, they're winning. They're winning. It does not affect, and hear me out, it does not affect most people. It does not affect most people. But they have a core of hateful, evil people that will wake up every day and get on their PCs and circulate lies and hate and conspiracy theories. They have an army of people, and where they let off, don't forget the ones that seed them all of this information, the Royal Rota and their burner accounts. They've all, compared to a Sussex friendly channel, they've always had a bigger audience. They always have had more eyes and more views. And so what's left are the everyday public who hears bits and pieces of it, and those little negative sound bites. The headlines are like a billboard. But this is the thing. And when I say they're winning, I don't mean that they're winning the day, but they have won this thing that they've created. That they have established something. They have established a network. That they've won that one. They have the Royal Rota. They have members of the royal family. It's really not a lot you can do about it. But what can be done and what we still have to maintain is that whenever Meghan has the opportunity, post something. Just keep posting. Meghan is doing the best thing for her family right now by maintaining a presence on social media. It has been the best medicine. It has been the best way to counteract all of these daily briefs. But we lost a lot of ground. I must admit, I think we lost a lot of ground during those quiet times when the Sussexes were not visible, because there was a one-sided war with new recruits left, right, and center. Can't go back and do anything about it now, but it's just a fact. It is just a fact. I hate to say it, but it's true. But I'm going to keep doing what I do, and you all keep doing what you can. But we really need to get into these comment sections. And I mean, as fast as possible, get into these comment sections, because that has been terrible. That has been terrible. That has been the worst thing, are these comment sections. The way they have managed to hijack the Rangers, the way they have managed to hijack so many of these spaces. Yeah, it's been terrible. I won't kid you. It's been terrible. We have to do better. We have to get in there. And even if we just say how much we love the Sussexes, I don't want you guys to go in there and argue with people, but we got to rate things, and we have to get in those comments. Don't stay and read everything, even if, you feel, and listen, let me make this very clear. When I say go into the comments, I don't mean on the hate channels, but when Meghan does a podcast with someone like, the makeup lady, when she does a podcast like that, a neutral space like that, those are the ones we got to get into. Because if you go into the comments on those hate channels, you're only going to make their channel bigger. We don't want to do that. We need to stay in the comments in those neutral spaces, something that does not have nothing to do at all with those derangers. That we can do. It was just such a disappointment to see what was it? I said, I forgot how many. It was like 5,000 comments, and 5,000 turned into 10,000 comments. There's never that many comments on a video that doesn't even have 1 million views. There's never that many. But they have, you guys, I'm just being honest. I'm not trying to scare anybody, but ever since the With Love Meghan, ever since the As Ever, They've really turned up the heat. They've really turned up the heat. But there are things that we can do. Now, Megan did say something that made a lot of sense. When Megan was on the podcast, she said you certainly can't respond to everything that everyone says. And let's make sure we all understand that you cannot. You cannot have a press conference your way out of this. You cannot write a book your way out of this. That doesn't work. Because the minute you put something out there, they pile on like a bunch of hyenas and start picking it apart. So that does not work. You have to pick and choose your battles. But all I can say is I'm going to keep doing what I've been doing. I'm not going to change anything. Dina Cardoza says it was a good fight and so happy for the brave soul Prince Harry to fight this battle. Hear, hear. Amen to that. Yeah, thank you so much for saying that, Lynn E. They have put more bots, and that is definitely a factor. The bots. And to the best of my knowledge, the way the bots work is that the bots comes from and I guess an AI tool or whatever. As I'm speaking to you now, I am generating a transcript. They can search those transcripts and assign the bots to go into those comments. And so realizing that Megan was on that podcast, they dispatched the bots. A lot of it is bots. It may seem like that's why I say, don't spend your time responding to those things. Just say something positive and get the hell out of there. Because that doesn't work. That is not going to work. Trying to have these verbal fights with these people, not going to work because you can't even be convinced that you're talking to a person, that you're responding to a person. Okay, I'm just looking at some of your comments here. Yeah, bots. Just like Henry VIII thought he was that he was a god and controlled history. He was thrown under a slab in a church. Their campaign to control the narrative and erase the Sussexes will fail. History proves it. Yeah, and that is why I keep driving the point. This is a matter of public record. This is different from I don't believe Diana had a day in court. I don't believe that Diana ever got away from Salt Island. The Sussexes are safely away from that place, and they can tell their own story. So, okay. Church Nelly, given everything that has unfolded today, that is probably the best thing to do is to just let it go. Let it go. Time is going to have to intervene. Time and a lot of sunlight sunlight is a great disinfectant. So throw open the curtains, raise up the window, and let the breeze in. Because you can only push back to so much, and then after a while, nobody hears you. Nobody's listening to you. But I am frustrated, but I'm going to remain optimistic. I'm going to take my cue from Harry and remain optimistic, because Harry definitely sounds as though he is going to just wait and see. Plus, he's got some amazing people around him, starting with his wife and his mother-in-law and his children. So he's not alone. He's got some great people around him. So do not despair. Without warning and without any planning, sometimes things just get better just because. So let's hope this is one of those occasions. Yeah, we should never give up on hope. And get better may not necessarily mean anything about being over there with those people, but let's just see what happens. Now, where's that picture that I made of Charles recently? Does anybody know? Let me find that photo. You know, I told you that little voice in my head keeps saying, yeah, that little voice in my head keeps saying, go to hell. Oh, there it is right there. There it is. I take comfort in seeing this. This gives me comfort. If you can't stand the heat, stop acting the way you do. Do I have another one? I think I got another one. Yeah. Sometimes I have to create art just to give comfort to myself, because otherwise it's just too much to bear. So I express myself with art. I reimagine certain images, and then I feel better. Yeah, then I feel better. Maybe that was the only one. Oh, well. Or how about this one from Zandy Sussex? The monarchist dementors are not the sharpest tools in the shed. They still haven't realized that Meghan can post what she likes when she likes. Boy, are they in for a rude awakening. And there is a representation of those monarchists. And listen, there's nothing wrong with being a monarchist if that's what floats your boat. Long as you ain't messing with the Sussexes, I don't care what you're into. So I think that should do it for now. I don't think I have anything else. Yeah, I think there was just this one right here. It was just a reminder right here. That Prince Harry, the way he made that very stealthy move to court that time. Remember his first day in court when he showed up in a black cab? He was in one of those black taxis, and the press was outside looking for more obvious means of transportation, but Harry hopped in a black cab and just went over there with his team, and no one was any wiser to it. So that was very cool. If they were not blocking the entrance, he could have slipped in there unnoticed. Okay, I'm going to do one more sweep and see if there's any more of that interview with the Duke of Sussex. Yeah, I'm just taking a peek through, but otherwise, you guys, I'm done for now. And let me see here. Okay, that's nothing new. We've heard that one. Yeah. I'm not seeing anything fresh and new, so I think that will do it for now. I will come back later this evening, or for some of you guys in the morning, and we'll pick up where we left off. Wow, this is going to be news everywhere. Well, let me play this one for you. It's not Harry, but it's someone responding to court today. Oh, wait. Okay, so this one is 6 minutes 27 seconds. So I'm not going to try to pick up where it left off, but we listened to like 3 minutes. Wait, let me make sure. Maybe we have heard this already. Let me just make sure. 6 minutes 27 seconds. Um, okay, yeah, I think we heard that one already. Let me see here. Oh, yeah, no, we haven't. We haven't. Okay, I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna play it, you guys. If you're still here, I'm gonna play it. We've only heard like 3 minutes of Harry talking. This is 6 minutes 27 seconds. So let's see what he has to say. Remember, it's gonna overlap a bit, but we'll hear something we haven't heard already.
The Prince talking about being devastated after losing.
Nope, not that one. Let me see. Is that it? No, it's got to be 6 minutes 27 seconds. Let me see if I can find it. Okay. Oh, okay. I see what I did. I didn't save it. Okay. I got it now. I'm going to play it. Now, remember, we have not heard this one yet. So, well, we've heard part of it, but this is twice as much. So let's do it, okay?
Where are the gaps there? What's your response to those who say you're getting police protection on a case-by-case basis?
I tell you, why don't you ask that question again, but in three parts, if you could, because you just put three very, very important questions together.
Sure.
And I cannot possibly answer all three of them at the same time.
Sure. What do you say to those who ask why the UK taxpayer should pay for police security? You have your own private security.
Well, first off, private security can only do so much. Again, I can't go into the details of that, but I think most people will be able to work that out. One of the major things is they don't have jurisdiction in a foreign country or in any country. They don't have any jurisdiction. Police protection is effective protection, which is what my grandmother made very clear that we needed. With regard to the taxpayer part of it, I don't need to go into detail how much the royal family costs or how much protection costs or whatever. What I will say is that some of the British tabloid press did a very good job in campaigning to have our security removed by quoting figures such as £20 million. Right, and through this disclosure process, I've seen constituents in the UK write to their MP saying, "I don't want to, as a taxpayer, I don't want to pay for Meghan and Harry's security at this cost." They're literally quoting headlines from British newspapers. Those figures are obviously grossly exaggerated by about 18, 19 times. And further to that, if you know that other people are being protected, people that have made a choice for public office, then why wouldn't you be comfortable, happy with someone in my position who's given 35 years service to his country, 2 tours of Afghanistan, and the threats and risks to my life? I was born into this position. I was born into it. It increased over time, along with my marriage to Meghan, and the frenzy across media.
Oh Lord, sorry about that.
And I guess on top of that as well, probably what people don't know, but that is mentioned in the judgment today, Ravek protect private citizens. I was made a private citizen by the royal household, not by Ravek, by the royal household. I can't be a private citizen. I will never be seen as a private citizen. I will never be treated as a private citizen, not by the media, not by most people, and certainly not by anybody that wants to harm me or my wife or our kids. So I think once people realize or understand that there are private citizens who have never played any role in public office and never will play any public role, that because they are high risk, they are protected at taxpayers' expense, and rightly so, because it will affect not only with that person, could they end up in hospital or worse on UK soil, but it comes down to impact, and it comes down to the reputational impact of the UK if that person or those people are injured on UK soil. But apparently for me, that doesn't matter.
And just to be absolutely clear, what is the difference between the top level security you say you should have and the security you are given on this case-by-case basis when you go?
So the details of the security I can't talk about. All I will say is that the only person within the family that scored anywhere near that was my grandmother. Overnight, I was reduced to the lowest. This case-by-case basis has been used by Ravek and also by large sections of the British press to say, well, what's the big problem? You're given something on a case-by-case basis. Unfortunately, that case-by-case basis is separated by the reason for my visit. Sorry, just to give you more context on that. It's not really a case-by-case basis. It's an either or. If you're invited to the UK by your family, then we will give you security. If you come for any other reason, then you will get a very low amount of security. I'm not going to confirm what that is, but it is completely insufficient. And somewhere along the line, people have talked about the fact that really all it is someone on the end of a phone. So, no matter how much private security I have around me, there's only so much that I can do and operate and function within the UK when it comes to supporting my charities, visiting my friends, all of these things. So, I've been treated very, very, very differently to everybody else that exists. All examples that exist, past, present, I have been singled out.
You've spoken very openly about the fact that you think you've been punished for leaving the monarchy. Who specifically do you think is trying to punish you?
I don't think that anymore. Now I know that it was, security was used as leverage. And I think what really worries me more than anything else about today's decision, depending on what happens next, is that it's set a new precedent, that security can be used to control members of the family, and effectively what it does is imprison other members of the family from being able to, choose a different life. If for me security is conditional on having an official role, one that both myself and my wife wished to carry on, but then was rejected, not by Ravek, was rejected by the royal household. And the result to that is you lose your security. That basically says you can't live outside of that.
You have your own.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that Harry went to the BBC. That means that hopefully most people in the UK will have access to this interview. Most people might actually encounter this interview. So thank God that this has taken place on the BBC. And where that's concerned, I know that a lot of people do not like the BBC, do not trust the BBC, but consistently, the BBC still has the best reputation amongst all the other news agencies in the United Kingdom, which is not really saying a lot considering that there has been a survey that shows that the British tabloid media, or the media period, is one of the least respected, the least credible in all of Europe, which of course BBC is part of that. But still, you have to take what you can get, and this is as good as it can possibly get where the UK is concerned. So thank goodness it was the BBC, because don't think with your heart, think with your head. That means that people in the UK may actually see it. But if it was on some other news agency outside of the UK, all we would hear is Harry wants reconciliation. You wouldn't hear anything else beside that. Is that Harry wants to come groveling back and reconcile. But here, Harry is speaking with his full chest and saying the quiet parts out loud so that there is no confusion. So I hope the BBC does not bury it somewhere, because they're going to get a call from the firm. They're going to get a call from the firm. So that whole part that we just listened to, it was not, it wasn't what we listened to before. So I'm going to say that there's probably been about 20, no, not 20, maybe about 15 minutes of interview so far. I'm pretty sure there's some more. So I'm going to comb through and see if I can find anything else that I can share. But wow, that was powerful. I almost feel like we need to listen to it again. What can I say? Harry packed a lot into that one. He's going there. He is going there. But they don't leave him a choice. He has no choice but to say things that will make people uncomfortable, because when you try to reason with those people, they don't hear you. They're not listening. They refuse to hear you. Really is a shame. And so I was a little surprised that Harry didn't mention the part where he offered to pay for his own security in the UK, but he did make it very clear, and he did say some things that we did not know. And that, of course, is the fact that for them to single him out in that way, that they would do a case by case basis. And if it's not a function with the family, then security is basically just someone on the phone extension. But if it is related to the family, so if he's doing a charity that is not an official patronage, and I don't know. I mean, Harry did keep his patronages, so I would say that Whale Child, Harry's little, what is it, Scotty's Little Soldier, perhaps. I think he would be okay with those. But if it was something outside of that, just spending some time with a friend, going to the Althorpe estate, any of those things, he wouldn't have the adequate protection. And why is that so important? Because number one, outside law enforcement is not allowed to carry their firearms within the United Kingdom. I'm going to just assume, unless you're the president of China, Russia, or the United States, then you're not going to have armed protection. Okay? They may include other countries, I'm not sure. But if anybody is as old as I am, and yeah, I know it ain't too many people old as me. If you're old as I am, you were up early in the morning back in 1981 to watch the wedding of Princess Diana, Lady Diana Spencer, and that, oh my God, I hate to say his name, that man that she married. And they went on and on and on about how Nancy Reagan was there and how the Secret Service may not have their weapons because they're, you know, I don't know what came of that, but they talked about the fact, you know, the little small talk during the wedding, that 96% of British police officers do not carry firearms, and they had that whole discussion, right? So any security that Harry brings is not allowed to arm themselves. Also, they have no coordination. They have no continuous communication with the police, with the Royal Protection Officers, unless Harry is doing work for the family, unless he is called to duty for the family. If he's doing anything outside of that, then there is not the continuous extemporaneous flow of information, updates about security threats or issues or cautions. That won't happen real time as it would if he had the Royal Protection Officers. And they know this. And his evil, despicable father is willing to put Harry, Meghan, and his children at risk. It's just that simple. Charles doesn't care. He does not care about Harry. He does not care about his family. He does not care. He doesn't have a spine. He doesn't have a heart. He's a spineless, heartless tool of Camilla. Camilla carries him around in her pocketbook. His father does not care what happens to him and his family. I don't care how many books he wrote. That is still your son. He does not care. Every day, there is a new punishment for marrying the woman you fell in love with. He is being punished for that. Make no doubt about it. That is the punishment. Yeah, he hopped in his open top roadster. He stayed for what, 45 minutes, and then he went to go and be with Camilla. He did the Lindo wing, the little Lindo wing mambo. And then when that was over with, next thing you know, the press watched him shoot out the gate and head over to Camilla's. It's just really more than anyone can bear. It's more than you can bear. Very savage behavior. I could never, ever, ever forgive Charles for this, ever. Not that he knows who I am or anything like that, but I could never forgive him for this. He's so much worse. He's so much pettier than I could have ever thought. Book or no book, we all know where the briefing and the leaking came from. We know why there was leaking and briefing. We know where it came from. Charles has purchased a house next to Camilla so that Camilla won't be inconvenienced by other people living so close to her lair. Well, in my opinion, he purchased the house so that when he's gone and Camilla's gone, Camilla's two children won't have to fight over house number one because there's another one just around the bend, courtesy of Charles. That is now part of the generational wealth for the Parker Bowles family. He has $3 million to casually throw around to buy that house. And as I'm saying this to you, if the tabloid media did not have that invisible contract, they would have put two and two together just like I did. Just like I did just now. They'd sorted that out. But they can't and they won't because of the invisible contract. It is a real thing. Okay, I'm going to take one more sweep and see if I can find anything else. And if I don't, I am going to okay, maybe that's something new. Let me see. I'm going to play it. It's how long is this one? 5 minutes, 26 seconds. The other one was 6 minutes, 37 seconds. So yeah, I think this is very different. Let's listen to this one and then we'll talk about it on the other side. Also, please don't forget to hit the like button. It's the first of the month, you guys. Don't forget to hit the like button. It's the least you can do. Like, share, and subscribe. For those of you that have memberships, thank you very much. But if you don't have a membership, or and no pressure, if you can't, you can't. But by you hitting that like button, it drives the engagement and more people can find Royal Sussex. Okay? So do that. Hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed. Okay, let's do this one.
I can't see a world in which I would be bringing my wife and children back to the UK at this point. And the things that they're going to miss is, well, everything. You know, I love my country. I always have done, despite what some people in that country have done. So, you know, I miss the UK. I miss parts of the UK. Of course I do. And I think it's really quite sad that I won't be able to show, you know, my children my homeland. You know, and I think what really worries me more than anything else about today's decision, depending on, you know, what happens next, is that it's set a new precedent, that security can be used to control members of the family. And effectively what it does is imprison other members of the family from being able to, you know, choose a different life. You know, if for me, security is conditional on having an official role, one that both myself and my wife wished to carry on, but then was rejected, not by Rabeg, was rejected by the royal household. And the result to that is you lose your security. That basically says that you can't live outside of their control, if you want to be safe.
Do you want the court battle to continue? Do you want to try to see this get to the Supreme Court?
I don't want any battles to continue. There is way too much suffering and way too much conflict in the world. This, at the heart of it, is a family dispute. And it makes me really, really sad that we're sitting here today, 5 years later, where a decision that was made, most likely, in fact, I know, to keep us under the roof. But then once they realized that wasn't going to work, once they realized that, you know, myself, my wife, and our kids are happier outside of the institution, then please just look at the facts. Look at the risks, look at the threat, look at the impact that if anything was to happen to me, my wife, or my father's grandchildren, if anything was to happen to them, look where the responsibility lies. You know, so yeah, there's a duty of care that has been completely thrown out the window, and that doesn't feel great. So for me, having an official role was conditional on keeping security, but for everybody else, people who have chosen this life to enter into public office and then leave, get it for life, regardless of whether they have risk or threat to their name. And by the way, I agree with that. I think that is absolutely the right thing to do. That if you come in and you serve your country, even if it's a minimum of 4 years, that you get the protection that you require because of your public service. I was born into this position. It wasn't a choice. I've served my country for 35 years. I believe that I am still continuing to serve my country. Public service is my life. That is the dedication that will never change. And then all the other bits and pieces that are added to that. You know, there are very, very real threats that exist out there. Some that are known about, some that are being withheld. And for people in power and responsibility of decisions to know that those threats and risks exist, but to turn around and say, well, because you don't have an official role, your life doesn't actually matter anymore. Well, you can imagine how I feel about that, but you can also imagine, not even imagine, that is the most illogical argument in the history of arguments. At this point, I'm feeling very let down. You know, it's the minority of people, especially those that read the tabloids and the press themselves. The press themselves have incited so much hatred towards myself, my wife, and even our children, that's hard to forgive. I actually couldn't believe it. I thought with all the disagreements and all of the chaos that's happening, the one thing that I could rely on is my family keeping me safe. And not only did they decide to remove my security in the UK, but they also signaled to every single government around the world not to protect us. I would love reconciliation with my family. There's no point in continuing to fight anymore. As I said, life is precious. I don't know how much longer my father has. You know, he won't speak to me because of this security stuff. But it would be nice to reconcile. As I learned through the First Nations throughout Canada, because of the Invictus Games, their goal in life was always truth and reconciliation.
Okay. I'm not going to play that part about the First Nations again because I think we've heard that 3 times. They have spliced and cut up this interview in so many ways that every time I listen to it, I hear something different. Did you just hear him say that they have told other nations around the world, do not protect us? Did you just hear him say that they have signaled to other nations around the world, do not protect us? And as he said, imagine how I must feel that my family, we've been saying this. We have been saying this for the longest, that this is exactly what the intention was, is to deny them protection. He just said it. He just said that. That we've been saying, he has just said it. Not only are we to not be protected in my nation of birth, but they have signaled to other nations around the world, do not protect us. So that means that in all likelihood, it was signaled to Colombia, do not protect them. It has been signaled to Nigeria, do not protect them. South Africa, Botswana, do not protect them. Canada, do not protect them. Egged on by the press, right? But in no means following the lead of the press. This is something that was decided in the household. You are a liability. You do not matter. Charles is so much worse than Thomas Markle Sr., so much worse. He is so much worse than Thomas Markle Sr. I pray to God that the TikTokers do what they do. I hope there's enough interest, enough understanding of what he has just said and that they will pick this up and run with it. Okay, let me do this one. Let me do this one. Let's see where this one goes. It's not that long.
feel, given you have expressed numerous times that you do not want history to repeat itself?
Yeah, I don't want history to repeat itself. I think there's a lot of other people out there, and the majority, they also don't want history to repeat itself. Through the disclosure process, I've discovered that some people want history to repeat itself, which is pretty dark.
That's quite a statement. Who do you think that is?
I'm not going to share at this point. You know, I know all the names of the people that were involved in this process. And again, you know, you have to question, why wasn't I put through the same risk management board that everybody else was put through, including members of my family?
And you rejected not because you're not no longer a working lawyer. And how does that make you feel, given you have expressed numerous times that you do not want history to repeat itself?
Yeah, I don't want history to repeat itself. I think there's a lot of other people out there, and the majority, they also don't want history to repeat itself. Through the disclosure process, I've discovered that some people want history to repeat itself, which is pretty dark.
That's quite a statement. Who do you think that is?
I'm not going to share at this point. You know, I know all the names of the people that were involved in this process. And again, you know, you have to question, why wasn't I put through the same risk management board that everybody else was put through, including members of my family?
And you rejected not because you're not no longer a working lawyer. And how does that make?
Okay. So, whew, what can I say? He knows what he knows. He knows what he knows. Yeah, he knows what he knows. And as he said, I know the names of the people involved in this process. And I can't help but think that they do want history to repeat. That's pretty sad. That is very, very sad. It's scary. It's alarming, heartbreaking. And as we've said, it has all been about control. It's all been about making them return. But we know return means they only want Harry. They don't want Meghan. They don't want those kids. They just want Harry. Yeah, that is the goal. A world with Harry, no Meghan, no children. Well, it is a testament to their love story that they're still together in spite of all of the pressure that they have tried to heap onto their relationship. And they're still together and they're still going strong. In order for Harry to fall under their control, they want to make sure that he keeps losing things, that he keeps losing ground. As I just said, did I say that the goal is that nobody works with them, nobody deals with them? They want to destroy them to the point where nobody will talk to them, that they have to retreat behind walls, that they're quiet, that they don't do any public duty. That was what I said. And Harry just said exactly that. They do not want anybody to deal with us. They want to isolate us and keep us under their roof so that no member of the family will do the same thing. Yeah. Mo Shannon says, Harry's heart is hurt, and I understand his family and his home. Yeah. It's got to be very hurtful. It's like living amongst aliens or monsters, and it's like waking up and finding out everybody in your family is a vampire but you. Oh, thank you for the super chat. Oh, let's see here. Jacqueline Rippey has become. Oh, I did that already, didn't I? But anyway, there's another bell for you. This is heavy, 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 very heavy. Lord have mercy. As they say, the more you know. The more you know. Not only did they remove our security in the UK, but they had signaled to every other government in the world to not protect us.
When that decision happened, I couldn't believe it. I actually couldn't believe it. I thought, with all the disagreements and all of the chaos that's happening, the one thing that I could rely on is my family keeping me safe. And not only did they decide to remove my security in the UK, but they also signaled to every single government around the world not to protect us. 2020, when that decision happened, I couldn't believe it. I actually couldn't believe it. I thought, with all the disagreements and all of the chaos that's happening, the one thing that I could rely on is my family keeping me safe. And not only did they decide to remove my security in the UK, but they also signaled to every single government around the world not to protect us. 2020, when that decision happened, I couldn't believe.
Oh, God, that's awful. I mean, it's bad enough, right? That you want to take away the security. You took the security, you took the money, fine. But that you would signal to the other governments around the world, do not protect them. Okay, I'm pretty sure we heard this, but let's do it again anyway. Oh, man.
Project that it has nothing to do with the fact that you're no longer a working royal.
Whether I have an official role or not, is irrelevant to the security needs that I would need. Let me rephrase that. Whether I have an official role or not is irrelevant to the threats, risks, and impact on the reputation of the UK if something was to happen. And again, that is proven by all of the examples that exist out there. So for me, having an official role was conditional on keeping security. But for everybody else, people who have chosen this life to enter into public office and then leave, get it for life, regardless of whether they have risk or threat to their name. And by the way, I agree with that. I think that is absolutely the right thing to do. That if you come in and you serve your country, even if it's a minimum of 4 years, that you get the protection that you require because of your public service. I was born into this position. It wasn't a choice. I've served my country for 35 years. I believe that I am still continuing to serve my country. Public service is my life. That is the dedication that will never change. And then all the other bits and pieces that are added to that. There are very, very real threats that exist out there. Some that are known about, some that have been withheld. And for people in power and responsibility of decisions to know that those threats and risks exist, but to turn around and say, well, because you don't have an official role, your life doesn't actually matter anymore. Well, you can imagine how I feel about that, but you can also imagine, not even imagine, that is the most illogical argument in the history of arguments.
And you reject that it has nothing to do with the fact that you're no.
Okay. Let's do a little exercise here. Prince Harry wants reconciliation with royal family, but says King won't speak to me. That is the big blaring headline from Sky News. I told you guys, we're not going to hear most of what Harry has said. The other media is not going to carry it. They're not going to carry that. They're not going to quote. They're not going to play the video of the bits that the royal family will find troublesome or inconvenient. That's not going to make the light of day on the other networks. Of everything that he just said, this headline says Prince Harry wants reconciliation with royal family, but says King won't speak to me. That's all they got from everything he just said. That's all that they have. Nothing was more important than that nonsense. Let me see. Lorraine Esmeralda A. Thomas. May the good Lord resolve this issue. God will vindicate Harry. We all need to pray for a miracle. Thank you so much, Lorraine, and thank you so much for being a member of Royal Sussex. But I have not given up on hope. I have not. I'm not giving up on hope. And I think praying for the best outcome is necessary. It really is necessary. How awful that must feel for Harry to know that they don't care about his children, that they have no regards for their children. Whether something happens to the children, whether they're orphaned, they do not care. Which is why the whole New York chase thing has taken on new meaning. You know, let me backtrack on something that I said some time ago. And that was while Biden was in office. This idea that someone from the British government would reach out to the American government and make a big fuss about whether or not the Sussexes fly on Air Force One. I didn't think it would be possible. I didn't think anybody would be irresponsible enough to try to make that a thing. And it wasn't that I didn't think it was impossible. But the thing is, I just didn't think it made sense given the fact that the Sussexes, after the Queen died, the Sussexes would want to get home ASAP. And taking a detour to Washington, D.C. on an official American aircraft would not make sense. But I do believe that someone, at this point, I do believe that someone from one of those palaces, in all likelihood, went through some official channel and insulted the British, what do you call it? The British diplomat, the ambassador to the United States, insulted that person by putting him or her in the middle of some nonsense. And I believe he was obliged to pass on the message, he or she, to the United States government. We request that you don't do that. Now I believe it. Now I believe that that was probably a thing. I still say it doesn't make sense. But all of these things, word for word, not in the same order, but by intention, it was all things that we have been discussing for years. We have been talking about this for years, speculating exactly what those people are capable of. Harry said in his book that William and I promised one another that we would not brief against each other in the press, the way that our parents briefed against one another in the press. And for William, I believe that lasts all of a day, probably for just one day. William is as evil as they come. His wife is evil as they come. And I even need to tell you about Charles and Camilla. Those are four rotten, evil individuals. And now Kate finds herself on the outside looking in. Because just as a reminder, Kate did not go to the palace yesterday. William was invited, Kate was not. So they don't even get along with each other. They do not. But those evil people are the ones running the show. Is it any wonder why William and Kate's children look so confused, so hollowed, so fearful, afraid, alarmed, nervous? They probably are watching some, and I'm sure intellectually they couldn't possibly know everything that's going on, but children feel things and they know things. They don't know what they know until they understand what the words are. But I guarantee you they didn't seen some stuff. What an evil family. Evil. Lane Parker says, I'm heartbroken and pissed off at the same time. Yeah, I'm going over this stuff in my head and I'm just like, what does this mean? Yeah. Very painful. It hurts me, and that's not even my family. Okay, let me see what else I can find here. Wow. I tell you, this kind of has done my head in. Well, let me see. I'm still looking here. Okay, heard that one already. Let me go to my reliable source. Okay, this might be new. Let me try this one on for size, okay? Let me try this one on for size. Wow, it looks like there's been a response from Buckingham Palace already. It says, breaking, Buckingham Palace spokesperson says, all of these issues have been examined repeatedly and meticulously by the courts, with the same conclusion reached on each occasion. Now, in other words, they want to just make sure that we downplay and minimize everything that Harry has said. Yeah, we're going to downplay it. We're going to stonewall. We're going to pretend like Harry is overreacting again. Okay, let me see what I can do with this one. Gosh, I'm almost afraid to look because every time I listen, come on, phone.
How are you feeling about this decision? Because clearly you have two children, Archie, Lilibet. They're not able to see their grandfather, their uncle, their cousins in a way that you feel is safe for them. So what's your feelings kind of moving forward? Is there any way that this could be resolved?
The only, I mean, firstly, I'm devastated. Not so much as devastated as with the loss that I am about the people behind the decision, feeling as though this is okay. You know, I don't. Is it a win for them? Is it a win that that I don't get the protection that the threats and risks and impact say that I should? I would hope they wouldn't consider it a win. I'm sure there's some people out there, probably most likely the people that wish me harm, consider this a huge win. But you know, there have been so many disagreements, differences between me and some of my family. This current situation that has been ongoing for 5 years with regard to life and safety is the sticking point. It is the only thing that's left. Of course, some members of my family will never forgive me for writing a book. Of course, they will never forgive me for lots of things. But you know, there is. I would love reconciliation with my family. There's no point in continuing to fight anymore. As I said, life is precious. I don't know how much longer my father has. You know, he won't speak to me because of this security stuff. But it would be nice to reconcile. As I learned through the First Nations throughout Canada, because of the Invictus Games, their goal in life was always truth and reconciliation. And I turned around to them in many conversations. I said, right, but reconciliation can't come without truth. Well, I've now found out the truth. I've shared some of it with you today. A lot of it exists out there, whether people choose to ignore it or not. You know, so it would be nice to have that reconciliation part now. If they don't want that, that's entirely up to them.
And now that this court battle is over, do you feel you will be able to approach your father and speak about some of those issues?
I mean, no, I don't think he would ever want to talk about it. I think he would just push it aside, and the argument will continue to be this is a government decision. It may well be a government decision, but how did they reach that decision? You know, when the H.R.H, the first place that they went to was the palace to understand what it is that the royal household or what the royal family want for me. I have never ever been allowed or offered to make my own representations. Not in 2020 and not for the last 5 years. And the new H.R.H continues to avoid answering some very specific questions that I have. And one of your previous questions that I think is really important is this case-by-case basis. For me, and only me, there has to be a royal obligation in order to receive protection on UK soil. And I think that speaks volumes.
Thank you.
Wow. So that must have been the conclusion of the interview. I tell you, every time I look, I find something I hadn't heard the first time, or the second time, or the third time. You got that right, Nafisa. He knows. He knows. And maybe that's why they want to keep him so close, because of everything he knows. Wow. Jesus, that is something else. Woo! Oh, you guys. Okay, I'm going to go. I didn't know I'd been on here so long, but I'll come back late tonight. Late tonight for sure. But this is some heat. Oh, I think this is a reporter. Hold on a second. Okay, let me do this one then.
Who leaves office receives lifetime protection. And he says, that's rightly so. It's a national.
Right. So it just kind of, the first part of it got cut off, but it was about people who leave office receive lifetime protection. Jimmy Carter, George Bush, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama. Let me see who else. Joe Biden. And their wives, their spouses, they also will receive Secret Service for the rest of their lives. So you have, what's his name? Gordon Brown, Tony Blair, the Cabbage Lady, the one with them weird dance moves and so on. You got those people receiving security. They're offered an office. We're speaking of prime ministers now. Very typical.
National security issue, but he feels he's given 35 years to his country, 2 tours in Afghanistan, but yet his security has been made conditional on having an official role with the royal family. So he feels deeply let down by that. He said he felt deeply let down in some ways by his country, because ultimately he says he can't escape who he is. He feels there needs to be a duty of care because he will have, this role in the family, despite it not being an official role. He doesn't believe that matters. He says he will never be a private citizen. So really, again, quite moving, emotional moment for him to have the court reject this, because sitting through arguments in court in London, he did think he had a chance of prevailing.
You did ask him about not being a working royal. He kept returning to the same theme in terms of the decision. Clearly, he thinks it's a wrong decision. Does he think it's a wrong decision, or was the process wrong? But he continually referenced not having any sort of risk assessment.
Yeah, look, the body that really decides this issue, Ravik, he pointed out that the royal household sits on that body. And so he is forced to be represented on that body by the royal household and to accept that they are putting his best interests forward, even though he left what he called the institution because he says he was forced for the safety of his family to leave. He sees a real conflict there that the Ravik doesn't have to go in through any kind of legal procedures, isn't bound by law, and can make these decisions. And he is of view. He had said that he thinks the king could step in and resolve this. He hasn't asked the king to do that, but he says he could. And he also said that now that there is a new government, the Labour government, he wants the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, to step in, for the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, to look at this carefully, because he does think, again, what happens if something happens to him and his family? Ultimately, this is an issue for the country and for the government to look at. And what was really also interesting, Matthew, I'm based in New York, and I can tell you that when Prince Harry and the Duchess of Sussex, Meghan, comes to New York, they do have a police detail. So it is interesting to kind of compare the kind of security they get from police, which he says is very different than the type of security he can get with his own private guards. So again, police protection he gets in New York or other countries compared to the UK.
Yes, and you asked him about the fact that he does get security here on a case-by-case basis. I was fascinated at the tension that there seemed to be between, at one moment, talking about wanting to reconcile with different members of the royal family, but then the obvious hostility aimed at the royal household in different sections of that interview.
Yeah, it is. It is hard, really, isn't it, to separate the institution from the family? But you can tell that is exactly what he is trying to do. You know, he says he can forgive. He can forgive a lot. He can move on, but he cannot basically give, you know, take anything less than the security he thinks he and his family deserves. And so his king, the king, his father, on one hand, doesn't want to get involved in government decisions. You know, I'm sure the royals would say that it's improper for him to do that, to get involved in government decisions. But again, that is Prince Harry's father, and so, as you say, there is that tension.
And at different stages, there were really several moments where he became quite emotional, saying that as he learned more about the process during this court proceedings, it uncovered, he said, my worst fears.
That's right. You know, he spoke of the fact that his risk assessment, he was found to be at one of the highest risks. And then as soon as he left being a working royal, all of a sudden that was downgraded and he faced the lowest risk. And he didn't feel that there was a real proper assessment done. And again, this goes back to his argument that he will never be a private citizen, that there is a duty of care to him because he was born into the royal family. And this feeling that he is being singled out in a way that nobody else is. No other public official or other dignitary that comes and visits the UK. So for him, it is this real sense of not getting the justice in this case that he thinks he and his family deserve.
A final thought, Neda, because there were several phrases that he used that really caught the eye. And one of them was, he said, I've lost the appeal. The other side has won in keeping me unsafe. That was an extraordinary thing to hear Prince Harry say. Did you get any sense that he was prepared to leave it now that he's lost this appeal, or is he considering it, taking it to the Supreme Court?
Yeah, he did mention that he has a few days that he has to make that decision, but he doesn't see a point to go to the Supreme Court at this moment. He essentially said that he doesn't think there's a way to win this through the courts. He believes that, again, there needs to be more of a kind of responsibility on Reivik to be bound by laws, to have a proper risk assessment and analysis done. He's calling for the Labour government to intervene here. So it seems unlikely that he's going to continue this court battle, which has already lasted years. It has created great strain on him, and that was very, very evident sitting down with him. This is, again, a very emotional decision. A gutted Prince Harry said he thought he could have won this, and now it's become clear that there was no way to win through the courts if Reivik are able to just who leaves office receives lifetime protection. And he says, you know, that's rightly so. It's a national security issue. But he feels he's given 35 years to his country, 2 tours in Afghanistan. But yet his security has been made conditional on having an official role with the royal family. So he feels deeply let down by that. He said he felt deeply let down in some ways by his country, because ultimately he says he can't escape who he is. He feels there needs to be a duty of care. Because he will have, you know, this role in the family, despite it not being an official role. He doesn't believe that matters. He says he will never be a private citizen. So really, again, quite moving, emotional moment for him to have the court reject this, because sitting through arguments in court in London, he did think he had a chance of prevailing.
You did ask him about not being a working royal. He kept returning to the same theme in terms of the decision. Clearly, he thinks it's a wrong decision. Does he think it's a wrong decision, or with the process?
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I didn't realize that had started to repeat. Um, whew, I tell you guys, this has been heavy. Please make sure you hit the like button. If you are not a member of Royal Sussex, do consider a membership for $4.99, the price of a cup of coffee. You can help support Royal Sussex and all the software and everything necessary to make this possible, StreamYard, etc. But wowee, all of our suspicions, all of the things that we were just like, surely they could not and would not, they did. They could and they did. His own family, the term throw him under the bus. So I do hope that this story becomes huge, huge. It's one thing to look at the docuseries Harry and Meghan and to see some nasty, stanky looking, some paparazzi person looking at the doorbell and peeking through the windows and stuff. That's one thing. But now we're at this point where it has been pretty much declared you're getting second rate security, as we darn well feel you need. You're going to be treated less than any two-bid politician that have served in office. People with a lifetime of security. You won't even get that. A prince of the realm, born of the blood, and you don't get that. And neither will your children or your wife. Because we say so. Because that's our prerogative. And that weasel judge that sat up there realizing nobody could be that dense, knowing that his decision and his, and the other judges, their decision is pretty much condemning an entire family to risk, an unnecessary risk. And they don't care. That is a particular evil. That is a particular evil. And Harry was right to call them out. Let the consequences be damned. Call them out. Call them out. Shame them. Name them and shame them. "35 years he served that miserable institution, and he has to tip around the country. He has to sneak in and out the door like a thief. The abuse continues. This is all part of the abuse. Andrew's security, at one point, and I'm sure it still is, Charles is subsidizing it himself. He wasn't doing it before, but he's doing it now. I'm sorry, you guys. My mind is racing with thoughts right now. My mind is racing with thoughts. And take a look on the left side there. His Majesty King Charles III visited the Royal Courts of Justice in London for an event celebrating the close relationship. I repeat, listen, and this is on an official government website, celebrating the close relationship between monarchy and the judiciary. And this was like a week before one of Harry's court cases. He took his little pudgy, funny shaped, childbearing hip ass through that court, going from room to room, waving them big fat hands around at people, reminding people who they work for. Only taking breaks to apply that cherry lip gloss, which I still don't understand why he's wearing that, but be that as it may. Name them and shame them. That's what's called for here. I'm glad Harry did that. Harry is protecting his family, and he's going to do whatever it takes to protect his family. They would rather he is condemned to a life of loneliness and despair in that institution. Whoever he married was not going to have it easy. But when you add in that factor of there being an African descendant in the household, that's when all hell breaks loose. That's when the simple prejudice, the everyday bias is amplified tenfold. I'm telling you, I've seen it my whole life. I've seen it my whole life. You know how they say, oh, this politician's honeymoon period is over with. Okay. Most politicians will get a honeymoon. But for a Black politician, it becomes some type of blood sport. You and your family are not safe. Maybe, okay, I'll say this. I'm pretty sure Meghan didn't really understand that, but Doria did. Trust me when I say Doria understood. And try as she may to shield Meghan from this side of life, which, you know, she was very justified to do that because, you know, you hope that it would never be a thing. But now we know. Now we know. All day, every day, the tabloids are on the attack. Every word, every phrase is analyzed. Well, it's Friday, you guys. It's Friday. Saturday for some, well, Friday, Saturday for some people. They got the whole weekend to spend this. The whole weekend. And they will spin it. They will come up with the 10 things that Harry said that is a lie. That's coming. They're going to find some kind of way to blame Meghan for it. But I hate to sound like a broken record, but those are some evil people. The press, the royal family, they want Harry and Meghan to put their necks out on the line, to put their family further at risk, Dr. Shola, standing up for the people of Palestine. And Harry can't even get his cousins that he grew up with to put their necks out on the line to show any type of solidarity for him. This is why Dr. Shola was so wrong for making that video, that hypocritical video. She doesn't know if they were threatened by some of the people that are causing the genocide. She doesn't know. You don't know where the threats are coming from, or someone pretending to be those people. But Dr. Shola gets her fair share of threats, don't get me wrong. She does. But not at this level. Not at this level. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm just reading something here. One of the so-called royal reporters seems to okay, she says, Harry's interview left me in tears. He's broken. So it's so clear who is to blame. I'm still trying to figure out who she's trying to say is to blame. Oh yeah, yeah. This person is trying to blame Meghan. You know what? Before I start cussing, let me just stop looking at that. Before I start cussing, not an ounce of humanity. just as I suspected, at least this one reporter is going to take the misogyny route. Another person called it a vicious interview, that he was being vicious. Well, oh boy. Anyway, you guys, I'm gonna go for now. For real this time. I tell you, that's interesting too. I don't know how long my father has left. You know, I don't know how long my father has left. And he has an idea. I'm sure he has an idea because and listen, I got some other opinions about things that I'm going to keep to myself for now. I'm going to just keep them to myself for now. But I can see there's a little bit of an okie doke going on here. Charles really does need to be angry with Harry because he's such a failure as a human being. Charles is a failure as a human being. So he needs to be angry with Harry so that people won't think about what he did to his first wife, how he made her life miserable, how she was manipulated from being a teenager until they hauled her remains off to Althorpe. He has to stay angry with Harry so people won't think about how terrible he is. Lord have mercy. Now see there. Okay. Baron, you're better than that. So stop thinking what you're thinking. Yeah, Harry is a better man. Always has been and always will be. Okay. Don't expect compassion from a pit of vipers. How aptly put. Yeah, you guys, this is trending like crazy. You know, I don't know about you all, but I've had times in my life when I realized someone did not care about me, did not care about my well-being, And I removed myself from the situation to protect myself. It's not so easy. Whatever the outcome of this is, and I'm sure a lot of people are saying, oh, well, you don't need to bother with those people. It's time to move on. I said it before, and I will say it again. I just said it a couple of weeks ago. These are very, very dangerous people. Dangerous people. They're dangerous. And you turn your back on them at your peril. That could be your undoing, turning your back on them. Keep your friends close and keep your enemies closer. And they are truly the enemy. They're horrible people. That William knows how his mother left this earth, and he's sitting up there playing patty cakes with those same people. William has been bought and paid for. He has been completely brainwashed or blackmailed, whichever comes first. But they got William on a string. They got him on a string. There's somebody carrying William around in their hip pocket or in their brassiere, in their girdle. But he's not a strong person. They have to say that what's the name? Henry VIII said a long time ago, a very small man is made big by saying how angry he is. They have to talk about his rage and hostility so that they can convince him that he's a man, that he's a viable specimen. When everybody knows the truth is William is as weak as water, and his daddy too. Both of them. Weak. Yeah. Yeah, you want to keep a door open, and you want to, believe that everything is going to work out. And God knows I prefer that it can be worked out, even for Harry and his family, even with everything that has happened. I'm getting older, and my family is getting smaller. And that's not a good feeling. Harry doesn't want his children isolated on the west coast of the United States away from the rest of the family. There are nieces and nephews over there, and this vendetta that Charles and his stupid son has, I really do believe that Beatrice and Eugenie and all the rest of them, I really do believe that they have been told to stay away. They have been instructed by the big dog. Don't go near them. And the one manipulating everything behind the scenes. What was that Snoop Dogg called Gail King? What was that he called her? Anyway, that one. She she's the master manipulator. You can believe that. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that just yet. but it's about to happen anyway. So let me say goodbye for now, and I will see you guys later. I mean, late tonight, probably about midnight Central Time, probably about the same time I was on last night. I need to relax and gather my thoughts because it has been a day. And yeah, it has been a day. This is a lot to take in. Well, I don't blame them. Those are some scary people. Those are some scary people. Do as you're told, otherwise, your parents are going to be punished. So, but let's just assume that by Beatrice and Eugenie doing as they're told, Eugenie, I guess, by doing as you're told, that means that your mom can be invited to Buckingham Palace for whatever cancer they had, right? Do as you're told, and your mama can keep the grave that was promised to her by Queen Elizabeth. Don't do as you're told, and not only will your mama lose her burial plot, but you and your family will too. This is what they're up against. So I don't begrudge anybody in that family for not standing up to those people. I don't. I'm not telling you how to feel, but I'm just telling you, I don't begrudge them because those are some evil people. And they can really mess things up for you. It's a testament to the Sussexes' force of will. It's a testament to them as humanitarians, as friends, as leaders in the community, that they have been able to achieve as much as they have. Now that we know for certain that that family has been instructing people to sabotage them. Now we know. We heard it from Harry's mouth. That which probably should have remained private can no longer be private because of this court case. But now we know what the truth is. It's official. We can suspect these things when it's just us. But when you hear it come from Harry with all of his sincerity, then you know it's the truth. It's like when Fumi said, TMZ said Michael Jackson was dead. I believed it because TMZ gets that right. They might mess up a lot of stuff, but they get that right. So when Harry speaks his truth, you know it's the truth because he's not a liar. And if he says that those people have it in for him, I believe them. And I don't expect Beatrice or Eugenie or the bartender and the Monopoly guy. I don't expect any of them to stand up against that family. They can't. Wonder if Thomas Kingston stood up. So and now he's laying down. It's a painful reality, but they have a 1,000-year head start. A 1,000-year head start. So the last resort is the court of public opinion. And I hope that the outcome is favorable. I wonder if what's her name, Eugenie? I wonder if she was supposed to go to Harry's Invictus 10-year anniversary, and at the last minute they were told, "Oh no, you don't. You're going over to Kensington. I mean, over to Buckingham Palace, or whatever day that was." Where Beatrice and Eugenie seemed furious as they descended the steps into the crowd, holding umbrellas. They didn't want to be there. It was mandatory. All hands on deck. I tell you what is this? This is May the 2nd, 2025. When I tell you that I have stared into the face of evil, that's what happened today. I feel like I have stared into the face of evil. All four of them. I have stared into the face of evil, and I did not flinch. And I intend to call them out for who they are. Well, that's what they are. Those are some evil people. And anybody who supports them. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. But it's true. But I'm proud of Harry. Harry was unflappable. They're going to say how emotional and distraught he was. He may have been all those things, but he gave one hell of an interview, and he said everything, and I do mean everything that needed to be said. And it came easy because he spoke from his heart. He spoke from his heart. And he said everything that needed to be said. And I'm super, super proud of him. He is a man among men. He's a king. He is literally the king. Okay, now I'm going to say cheers.